Hey guys, this is Alan. I am behind the camera this time instead of in front of it, so that might be a relief to some of you. Um, this video was taken at the 2016 Orccon convention in Los Angeles, and this was my table in the dealer room where I was exhibiting. I had a real small table this time with just two 6-foot tables and just showing off some things. So you saw the 15 millimeter European buildings there a second ago, and now we're on to some 15 millimeter sci-fi stuff. Those vehicles on the ground are from Clear Horizon Miniatures. Everything else is from Gamecraft, my company. And here's a little more 15 millimeter stuff. Here's some 6 millimeter or epic scale sci-fi stuff. I make quite a bit of that stuff too. And then over here, I was running demo games of TAC 2. Not really games as such, I was just kind of showing how the game works. I put down a cigar box battle mat like I showed in one of the earlier videos, put down some of my buildings, a few tanks and data cards, and just kind of showed people the mechanics of how the game works. Basically just playing, one turn so they can see how it works. So maybe I got some new gamers out of that, one can hope. It's one of the things I try to do at all the conventions is not only promote my company and my product, but promote the type of gaming that I like doing also. I'm just trying to build the community. So here we are back at the 15 millimeter sci-fi stuff again. I like using a lot of lights and LEDs and fiber optics and stuff. It gets people's attention. And so here's the 15 millimeter European Parisian style buildings I made for Team Yankee. People really love these things because they're inexpensive and they look real cool and they go together fast. And now here is basically what it looks like to be in a dealer room at a, I guess, medium-sized convention, around 2,000 attendees or so. So I'll just let you see what it looks like to experience this for a second, and then we'll go out into the open gaming room.
I still originally said it'll all be part of basically my whole joke is basically, bye Mike. Yeah.
I haven't played, I've just been watching.
So now we're entering this sort of no man's land in between the dealer's room and the open gaming room. There's other dealers and mostly like demos going on out here, actually manufacturer demos. And here we go into the dealer room. So I'll just shut the hell up and let you see what it looks like to be in a big ass open gaming room.
So he could do a charge. He has to move at least 5 inches to build momentum, and then he can move anywhere between, after that, 5 to 10 inches to get to the target to try to flat
If you and your cousin want to play zombie games,
I think I have 3 or 4, I don't remember.
I had to stop by here for a second and just check out these miniatures because I just love all miniatures. There's some cool T-72s and BMPs there, and the M1s and the M163s, M113s, M901s, and then you got your Cobras there, and there's a couple of Hinds in the back. Pretty cool. 15 millimeters, not my thing, but still they look cool. And here we see the paint and take table where people can sit down and learn how to paint miniatures, and whatever they paint they take with them, so that's why it's called paint and take. That's kind of cool. And then just some more gaming out here. Next up, I've got some audio that I want to share with you guys. I was interviewed at the convention for the In the Garage podcast, which is put on by Clear Horizon Miniatures. Harold and Jason are the hosts of the podcast, and it's a really fun podcast, and I think the interview went real well. They mostly asked me a lot of questions about my business, Gamecraft Miniatures, and how I do things and what materials I use and what tools I use and things like that. So if you think you might find that interesting, the next 20 minutes approximately is the audio from that podcast interview. There's no video to go along with it, but just sit back and listen.
Whenever we need to. Hey everybody, okay, we're back, and now we're here with Alan from Gamecraft Miniatures. Hello, Alan.
Hello, guys.
And we're happy to have you here to do a quick little interview. And again, we're at StrategicCon. Is this called Orccon, right?
Yeah.
The Orccon. So this is their second of third, or is this their first one?
First of the year of 3.
Excellent. Now, how long have you been coming down to these conventions?
Just since about 1980.
Oh, so just a couple years.
Yeah, just a few years.
Because I know definitely every time I've been here, you've had a booth here, right?
Yeah, I've been coming and exhibiting here with a booth for the last 7 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So have you seen it grow every time you've been here? Since you obviously have a good frame of reference for all that.
Yeah, it's been growing since I've been coming here. It's been growing every convention that does a little better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. Even from the couple years that I've been coming here, it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger and more stuff. I know this time it seems like it's probably the biggest I've ever seen it, with all the people in the hallways and the vendors and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think they're looking at about 2,200 people this time.
That's nice. Yeah, we hope to have a booth here, maybe even a joint booth or something next time. Would be pretty cool. So Gamecraft Miniatures, how long has Gamecraft Miniatures been around for?
7 years.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's how long. That's why I've been exhibiting for 7 years.
Well, that makes a lot of sense then.
Yeah.
So Gamecraft, you're just a full-time
gig, yeah. It's the first year it started off as a part-time business, and then after that it had to go full-time.
Now, what was the first products that you developed and designed for Gamecraft Miniatures?
It was 285th scale, also known as 6mm Middle Eastern buildings. That was the first thing I did. That was something that I needed for my gaming, and it wasn't available to the standard that I wanted. So I made them for myself, made a mold, and said, why don't I start selling these?
Now, you're a big micro armor gamer,
right?
So was that for micro armor?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the same way we started Clear Horizon Miniatures. Like, when a drop pod, no one made a nice drop pod.
So you made one.
Absolutely. So that's very cool. Now, how many? I know since you started from the humble beginnings, how many products do you have now?
About 2,500.
So a couple of them.
Yeah, a few more, and different scales as well. I've gone all the way up to 28mm.
Now, of course, you don't have them all in stock all the time. Is that right? Do you generally make to order?
I make everything to order because I have so many products that if I wanted to put even one of each on the shelf, I'd need a really big shelf.
Now, so you use mostly. That would be a big shelf.
We got that problem in the garage.
Now, so you use a laser cutter for most of your products, right?
Laser cutting and resin casting. Those are the two main modes of making the miniatures. And also I do some spin casting of metal, pewter miniatures.
Now, do you have a preference on which type of product that you enjoy making the most or designing?
For myself or as a business?
Both, maybe?
For the business, laser cutting. Because I can lay a sheet of material in the machine and it can cut several kits at once and I can pack them up and ship them. It's pretty easy. It's time consuming, but it's easy. Once you press green button on the machine, it goes and you just sit and wait. For myself, I like the lead miniatures. Because I like playing micro armor.
Right.
So.
Now, how long does it usually take you to design like a new, say, an MDF kit for a laser cutter?
I'm really fast.
Well, and I know because I've said, hey, Alan, it'd be cool to have this, this, and this, and in 3 hours, it's all of a sudden
it's done.
It's done, yeah, which is always pretty cool.
I've been using AutoCAD for about 30 years, so I'm pretty good at it. Not bragging, but I've got a lot of experience.
You can brag.
Yeah.
We've got your stuff.
Yeah.
So when I come up with an idea, which is the hardest part, by the way, then I just get on CAD and draw it. And
Yeah.
when I'm done drawing it, I press go, and the machine cuts it. And if I did everything right, it's done.
Now, for using the CAD program, my understanding is that the laser takes different colored lines to
Right.
as different depths, correct? So
Yeah, different laser companies use different standards. The one I have a universal laser, which is a real nice American-made machine, and it uses any line drawn in red, it'll cut. Any line drawn in blue, it'll engrave, like scribe.
Right.
And anything in black, it will engrave as what they call a raster engraving. So you can actually do like three-dimensional to a certain degree. It'll do, depending on how black it is, it'll cut
Interesting.
deeper. So you can actually do a little bit of a relief.
Oh, so like you had some that are like a light gray as opposed to a black. You'd actually do a different depth.
Right. So I've got a structure which is the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, and there's a relief on it on the front of it, and it's at different levels.
Interesting.
And it cuts it, and it's actually I'm doing it with my hand, even though you guys can't see.
He's doing I'll just describe it for the court. It's a wavy motion.
A wavy motion. So there's different levels of cutting involved. Yeah.
It's awesome. Now that seems like it could get very complicated very quickly if you were trying to do something really like in depth. Like if you had like 5 or 6 different levels.
Yeah.
Can there be gradient? Is it gradient?
Oh,
or is
yeah,
it,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You load in a grayscale image, and depending on how dark the
gotcha.
color it is, the deeper it cuts. The more power it gives to the laser, so it cuts deeper.
Now I was looking at your most recent releases. I think of the Team Yankee stuff, right?
Right, the 15mm Team Yankee European buildings.
So how many buildings do you have in that new line?
It's about 25.
Now they're very, very nice. I mean, they look just like something you'd see out of like Saving Private Ryan or.
Yeah, they were modeled after photos that I took in Paris of just random street scenes. I just took a bunch of pictures of buildings, and I used that style to make these multi-story buildings.
Now those. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, if you took pictures for your company, you could probably write that trip off on your taxes.
You're a very smart man, aren't you?
I need to go to Paris more often.
I know, and we should just take pictures everywhere.
Yeah, maybe
for models.
the Smithsonian over in D.C. That'd be good, right? Good reference photos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go there every 2 years for my other business before I started Gamecraft Miniatures. I was a model maker in the aerospace industry, and I would go to the air show in Paris.
Oh wow.
It was part of something I had to do.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a horrible work-related event, right?
It was awful.
Here, let me twist your arm. Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, the air show goes on for 2 or 3 days, but I was somehow there for 2 weeks. I don't know how that worked.
Travel
out.
time.
Collating research.
Exactly. So I took a lot of pictures while I was over there.
Now, obviously, Team Yankee is a new games rule set from Battlefront Miniatures, which
Right.
handles the theoretical Cold War, and it's in 15mm.
Right.
Now, are you doing those buildings in different scales as well?
Yeah, I will be doing them. In different scales. They're just in 15mm now, and now that the design is done, I can scale them up or scale them down and go from there.
Now, obviously, Battlefront is probably one of the largest 15mm miniatures companies out there, just because they've done their Flames of War, which is the World War II rule set, and now they have Team Yankee. Now, I don't really have a finger on the pulse of Team Yankee. I don't know how popular it is. Have you seen like these buildings really flying off the shelves, so to speak, the big shelf you have?
Yeah, they're starting to.
Okay.
The game just did come out. I guess it was about a month ago.
Yeah, if that even. I mean, they haven't really even done the releases.
And there's
a
still
whole lot
some
yet.
people, waiting for their miniatures and waiting for their rule books and things like that. But it's growing. It's growing fast.
That's cool. I mean, and of course, any 15mm is good 15mm as far as I'm concerned. So
Right,
it's getting more and more people into that scale and seeing. I mean, because I think the detail on these figures that they're putting out now is surpassing the stuff they put out before.
Yeah, the new miniatures that they put out for Team Yankee, the tanks and things like that, they're really nice models.
Have you actually had a chance to get any in hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I own some of the M1s and the T-72s, and I've seen quite a few of them here at the convention. There was a game going on last night. I posted on my YouTube feed of a game. Guy had BMPs out there,
Oh,
all
excellent.
kinds of different vehicles.
Yeah, it's a good point.
M113s.
We'll have to go out and see if we can check it. Because I haven't seen those. I've seen pictures, of course. I'm curious to see how they look.
Yeah, if you find Mike James out there, he's got a huge collection.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
I think he said he bought out every store within 4 states.
And what is your YouTube channel? If people wanted to check it out for all the different cool stuff you have on there.
In the game room.
In the game room.
Just search YouTube.
So not in the garage, in the game room.
Right. Yeah, so you can't sue me, as you threatened to do.
I guess that's
I talked
more
him out of
than
it.
more than 10%, so we're okay here.
Yeah. I was inspired by you.
You know, and it's excellent. Actually, really, like I think we were talking about last time. The video cast is, I think, what I called it, even though that's probably a horrible word.
I don't know what the name is. It's a show.
Yeah, and it's actually very entertaining and very educational, which usually don't always go together. But you know, it's miniatures, so it can't be that bad.
I got schooled. And
Yeah, it was good.
all
Good
the
scale
doors are wrong
talk.
to me now. Every time I look at them.
My doors are right.
That's good stuff. You know, and definitely. So, and then you have some other really cool stuff sitting up there. You have a lot of, it looks like LED and like a little video camera, or I'm sorry, the television screen, basically, right?
Yeah. For the science fiction 15mm stuff that I have on display here, I like to put a lot of lights in. You know, the chase lights and LEDs and fiber optics and the video display. It just gets people's attention.
Now, is that something that you you drill yourself, or do you use a laser cutter for that as well?
I use a laser cutter for everything.
Now, so like for instance, you have the spaceship bay,
Right.
and it has a really awesome chase light LEDs, and I noticed there's little holes, so obviously the little light can come through.
Right.
Is that in the kit already?
The holes are not in the kit. If somebody wanted that as an option, I'd gladly do it
Oh,
for
excellent.
them.
Okay.
But I don't put the holes in there because if you didn't put the lights through,
It'd be a
then
little weird.
they would be silly to have
Okay.
holes in them.
So that's great. So yeah, no, I mean, if anybody out there, you know, wants to do, I'm sure he'd be willing to just email you, and you can
Yeah.
provide some assistance and
Oh
figure
yeah,
out.
I do a lot of custom work for people, especially when it comes to things like bases and stuff. People are constantly asking me for different size and shape bases and things, and if I can draw it up in a minute or two, I'll do it. You know, because it doesn't cost me anything to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's one, I guess, advantage when you're dealing with a smaller one-man operation like me. You know, you just call me or write me, and I'll make something for
Absolutely,
you.
and I, you know, like I was mentioning earlier, I think there's been a more than a handful of times where I've emailed you and come up with different ideas, and
Oh yeah,
There's been nights where we're sitting at the table doing stuff. Harold comes up with this crazy harebrained idea. See him going like this. What are you doing? Oh, I'm sending a text to Alan. An hour or so later, hey, check this out.
it's
He
a
shows me
picture.
his
It's
phone.
done.
It's like, holy shit.
yeah, Harold can be a real pain in the ass, but you know, it's all good.
everyone knows it, I think.
Yeah.
My favorite is that day we watched the watched the cast,
Right.
And he was talking about the door sizes. You took that picture, and then the instant reply, "Jason's an idiot." Like, I love this.
I think we
man.
put a 28mm figure next to
Yeah.
one of a 10mm door, because right now we're working on Drop Zone Commander, and we have a bunch of. Now we'll talk about hopefully talk about mat board in a second, but it's not MDF; it's mat board, like you would mat a picture frame. Alan actually has offers a bunch of stuff in that material, and has a YouTube video up there to actually working with it, which I picked up the. I have an Elmer's. It's not the exact glue you mentioned. It's like an Elmer's extra strong. It looks like the schoolhouse glue, but it's extra
Right.
strong, and that worked really well. I mean, instead of using my normal super glue and getting everything to my hands.
Yeah.
And then I used the lacquer that you mentioned, the spray lacquer, and that really went well. And then of course I even used the textured spray paint to finish it.
Man, those things are
And
gone.
Right
it
on,
looks
yeah.
it looks awesome. So let's talk about, if you don't mind, the difference between like MDF and mat board.
Okay, so MDF is a wood product made, basically it's some sort of resin binder mixed with a whole bunch of sawdust. They just press it together, and that makes this wood-ish product. Mat board is more of a paper product, almost like it's almost a 1/16 of an inch thick. It's almost like poster board, only a little thicker and more rigid. It's used in the framing industry for matting pictures and paintings. And I've found that it's a really cool material for smaller models, like 15mm and smaller.
I actually really like it just because it's so much thinner than MDF. It actually, the scale, like thickness of the walls. I personally, I mean, I always like the in scale stuff. I love the MDF buildings I have from you, of course, but I actually, for 15mm even, I'd like to get more in mat board.
Right, and it's cheap, and it cuts quickly. There's two factors that go into my pricing of my products: how long it takes to cut and what the material costs. So if I can get the material cost down and the speed at which it cuts, I can charge you less for it. So that's another cool thing about
Yeah,
it.
I know. Like, I think I picked up like 17 of those Drop Zone Commander buildings. I think they're only like $6 or $7 a pop or something like that.
You get a substantial discount.
Well,
But-
they're still.
but-
I mean, even if I didn't, they're incredibly inexpensive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get anything for $6, $7. anywhere near that cool anywhere else. So
Yeah, those.
and the quality. I mean, they're incredibly well engineered as well.
Everything lined up perfectly and went together like
Well, that's that
no problem.
35 years of CAD experience there.
Yes, absolutely. It shows.
But those new buildings I did for Team Yankee, those 15 millimeter European city buildings, I did a little calculation, and the average price per building is $9.51.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you can't get in any other medium or company.
Yeah, it's really cheap.
Yeah.
And matte board cuts cleaner than any other material as far as detail goes. So I can get some really fine detail on those parts. Whereas like in acrylic, things start to melt when they get too thin. MDF starts to burn because it's thick and you got to cut slower. So I love the matte board. I think it's the greatest material there is.
Now, if there was like a product that we liked that was an MDF or say 15 millimeter, and we want something in matte board, is that something that's easy for you to do, or is
absolutely.
it? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's basically just changing out the material. It doesn't even worry about.
Yeah, I have to make some different calculations because of the different thickness in the material. You know, when the tongue and grooves that come together, they've got to be smaller. So it involves a little bit of work on my end. But yeah, anything can be changed.
Interesting. Yeah, I love the matte board material.
I like the matte board too because you can actually take it. Remember, we were cutting holes in the roof
Right,
for
yeah,
plants to go through.
Because of course, a lot of the motifs for Drop Zone Commander is like an overgrown human cities. So we have, so Jason actually cut like a ragged hole in one of the, with just with scissors, really easy, and then put a tree in there. I mean, you can't do that with MDF without like a jigsaw, basically.
Right.
You know?
The only thing you have to be careful with the matte board is that if you putty the corners, and you start sanding it, and you sand too much, and you sand into the material, it starts to get fuzzy. You get that papery
Your
texture.
tolerances were so great that once we put them together, the glue pretty much filled everything in.
Right.
And then once we put the lacquer and then the base coat,
Yeah, the texture paint. Most of
went away.
them, where I did a proper coating, actually, you couldn't even really tell there was ever a joint there.
Right.
Now, we were actually almost didn't paint them because they had a nice light gray color with some burn the edge, and it actually looked just fine. It didn't. If you just wanted to put something on a tabletop, it could easily be that color.
I thought they were painted when he brought them. He brought 2 or 3 already made over, and I'm like, wow, this is a great paint job. He's like, I just took those out of the bag and put them together.
Now, have you thought about using different color matte board? Do you have that option?
I have the option to use all different colors. I do some 15 millimeter Wild West structures, and it's kind of a reddish brown color.
Oh, interesting.
So those you can just put together and put on the board and play, or you can paint them.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Like if you had the roofs, you used a brown matte board. Like if you used different colors, you have a pre-painted thing going on there. I don't know how pain in the butt that is, but
A bit.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I came up with the idea, so usually it is.
Yeah, it's going to be more work if you came up with it. Another cool thing people have been doing is they'll take some masking tape and they'll cut like 1/4-inch strips and wrap those around the corners.
Oh, gotcha.
A little bit of trim on the corners, and then you don't have to mess with that at all.
And I don't mind the puttying, and once you do it, it's not that difficult. It's for me it's a little too time consuming for what I'm doing. Like I just like to get more done. But that's an excellent idea. That's really quick. You just cut the tape and then you paint it, and you'll never even know, and it looks like part of the building.
Right.
Harold is like a little kid. He comes over with all these new buildings. He's like, we got to build them all right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely, and I know myself, if I don't do it right now, then it gets in the queue and I never see it again.
Right.
So
There's a small city sitting on the table at my house in the garage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So all that cool stuff you have at Team Yankee. Any other cool stuff you have coming out soon?
I've got a couple new metal miniatures coming out for micro armor.
Oh, awesome.
285th scale. I'm working on some vehicles. I don't want to say what they are right now, but there's a couple of vehicles coming out. Just came out with a very small boat. It's
you should.
Yeah, the riverine command
that's
vehicle.
Very cool.
Yeah, that came out. So I'm getting more and more into the metal casting. That's just something I started about 1.5 years ago, and I'm slowly getting into it.
Now, did that require basically buying a big spin caster?
Yep.
Is that what? Okay.
Yeah. It required a lot of different machinery and a lot of different materials, and there's a lot of black magic in that art. People that make metal miniatures that have been doing it for a long time, they've learned a lot.
Our last interview with Josh, he put out a video on how to actually cast it. He did the trial and error stuff, and it is you have to really see it and visualize where is the metal going to flow, where is it, because you're not like dealing with like simple shapes. You're dealing with a complex 3D object that needs to have the air vented. You need to have the metal go in there properly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. definitely metal casting. I know takes a lot of, especially the mold making part. Once you have the molds done, it's not super complicated.
Once your mold is perfect, you've got all your channels perfect and all your venting done. It'll be fine every time.
Right.
But that's where the black magic is.
Yeah. No, it's. I would love to do it. I can't, unfortunately, right now. Maybe one of these days I'll get a workshop together. But yeah, no, it is very impressive. When you see these expertly made molds, how much thought goes into it, and they can do it very quickly as well.
I've had a lot of respect for a lot of the companies that make miniatures. Like in my scale, GHQ is the big company,
right?
And I just love them. Everything they do is fantastic. I buy everything they make. So I'm trying my hardest to be like them.
Right.
And in 35 years, maybe I will be, because that's how long they've been doing it.
Yeah.
So I'll never claim to be as good as them, but I do all right.
And I know you just picked up a new 3D printer too, right? One of the
stereolithography machine.
Now, would you call it I hate this word too, prosumer, like a pro-consumer model, or
no? I would call it slightly higher than prosumer model.
Okay.
It's a desktop model. It's small.
Right.
But it's based on the technology of stereolithography. And stereolithography is sort of the gold standard in 3D printing. It's a vat of liquid resin, and a laser cures the part, and it builds the part out of liquid. Where a lot of these machines that you see today use a plastic filament and just...
So you can only ever have how big the filament is in terms of resolution.
Right, and the resolution on I don't have the numbers with me right now, but we're talking microns.
Well, I know you did some prints for me, and I saw some print you have upstairs, and it's just, it's professional. You can't do any better.
You can't see the layer lines.
Yeah, no, and being able to go straight from the computer to the print to now you can do metal casting or whatever, resin casting. That's amazing capability, and certainly reduces the time to market for any of the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, there's still some finishing work involved, and there's still some hand work involved. You got to add details here and there and things like that. And you got to make the molds and stuff. But it's a great tool. It's just one more tool in the tool chest of the model maker.
A very fun tool, I'm sure.
Very fun tool.
Now, how is it like to clean up? Like if someone wanted to say spend the money and get that kind of technology in their home. Now, obviously with the filament, you just have the solid filament, so it's not so much worry about chemicals and all that. Now, is there the vat of resin? Is that something that's going to cause a lot of issue for people?
No, that stays in the machine, so that's not a problem. When you pull the build platform out of the machine, you pop the part off of it, and it goes into a bath of alcohol to clean the excess resin off. So you can make a mess if you're a sloppy person, but I do it in my office.
But it's not a generally caustic procedure or anything.
I used to have it in my shop, but now it's in my office in my home, and there's no smell involved. There's no mess.
So I know some of the $100,000 machines use, there's powders involved and all this kind of different thing. And
the powdery ones can get a bit messy.
Yeah, and different specialized cleaning agents.
But they all have their advantages too.
Right.
The powdery ones don't have any what they call support structure.
Right.
The models come out just done.
Yeah, those are. I had a chance to using 3D hubs. I had a chance to go visit some guy who had like a $100,000 machine, print some of my stuff up, and it was amazing seeing what they could do with it.
And that's what Shapeways does. Shapeways has they have the powder system, they have the wax system, and there's no support structure at all. My parts have a support structure that has to be cut away when they're done, but
because there's no otherwise you can't print overhangs.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Great. Well, unless there's anything else, is there anything else you'd like to? What's your website address right now?
gcmini.com.
Okay, check it out, guys. Especially if you're doing Team Yankee or really any scale, any era. He has.
I have it.
Yeah, and he's quick. I know. Even though it's built to order. I mean, built to order as in like I have it the next day kind of stuff. So. Don't let that scare you off in terms of speed, because he's probably the quickest person around, and never out of stock because he makes them himself.
Never out of stock, and I put customer service #1,
and it shows absolutely. Yeah, and he always if you have requests or questions, please email him. He's always super fast.
I'm always awake. I never sleep.
It's true. I don't think he does sleep.
We were just talking about that the other night.
Yeah, I think Alan's awake right now. Yeah. Well, Alan, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and I hope you have a fun rest of the convention, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching/listening. The next episode of In the Game Room will be back in the game room. This was just kind of a special weekend for the convention, but we'll be back to normal shows very soon. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll keep listening and subscribe. Thank you very much, and until next time, keep on gaming.